Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte. Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte. Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.
Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television, the Senior Divisional Officer for Kupe Manenguba Division of the Southwest Region of Cameroon abandons a socio-economic tour prematurely as a result of the socio-political crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. In this newscast, we tell you how and why it happened. Also ahead, we'll tell you how streets, markets, and even some schools in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon were practically empty as the people were observing the sit-in strike this Monday. We bring to you images of major towns and cities in this newscast. Plus, Prince Esuka Endele has so far been conferred the title of the paramount ruler of Boya. Those are headlines. Stay with us for the details. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you back from the weekend. You are watching the primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Escalation of violence compelled the Senior Divisional Officer for Kupe Manenguba Division in the southwest region of Cameroon to end his Meet the People tour midway. That was an incident that occurred a few days ago. He narrowly escaped attacks from some yet to be identified individuals in that part of the country. They paralyzed several schools, activities in schools and villages. That was an incident that has been happening several months in schools and villages. That was an incident that has been happening several months now. Let's have the details with Babla Jonathan.
Etam and Ebonji, two villages in the Kupe Manenguba division where academic activities have been paralyzed by the Anglophone crisis. Many schools in these localities have not gone operational since the start of the 2017-2018 academic year last September.
Now become a national crisis. This does explain why the crisis hit a hard blow on Etam. The first consequence of this crisis is that schools have not been operational in Etam from the start of this crisis till date.
The situation is very tense here. No class has taken place here since the beginning of this school year 2017-2018. The last day they were children in this school was on the 18th of December 2016.
Our children are not going to school, and that is a part of disturbances for the education in Cameroon as a whole. I, for me, am not for any other thing, but apart from that.
Sections of several schools have been burnt down. Gunshots and gun battles have become near daily happenings in the two regions.
GS Etam 1 Group 1, the school that has just been burnt, 3 classrooms and the office. That office was carrying archives, materials, everything since the creation of the school. Don't know what really happened, that the school was burned. As they were burning the school, gunshots were coming from all over. Since on Monday, we have been receiving threats. Some young boys came to school here and threatened us with a machete.
The situation in the two villages speaks volumes of the impact of the Anglophone crisis on academic activities in the rest of the southwest region and the northwest region. During a Meet the People tour of the Senior Division Office of the Kupe Manenguba Division, Kiyangtio Augustin, local authorities denounced secessionist activities and called on government to restore peace. Authorities denounced secessionist activities and called on government to restore peace in their localities.
We would also like you to know that we at Ebonji are not party to secession.
pleading to the government to solve the problem, the Anglophone problem, very fast, because all this situation is happening because of the Anglophone problem.
The senior division officer of the Coupé Maningouba division, Kiyantiu Augustin, urged the people to reject anti-patriotic ideas.
I come to ask you to change and to be responsible.
The tour of the senior division officer ended midway when violence erupted in Bangem.
The senior divisional officer for Coupé Maningouba, who could not continue his tour around some villages and divisions or subdivisions rather, as a result of the socio-political tension rocking the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon. We now present to you the picture of Bamenda, where relative calm returned. That was in the early hours of this morning in the chief town of the northwest region of Cameroon. It follows the gunshots that were heard for more than 2 days and 2 nights in the chief town of the northwest region of Cameroon, precisely in Mezam division. Today, it was an empty town in the northwest region of Cameroon. We can see how those are rather images in several months back, but it was practically a similar scenario today. It should be noted as well that security forces were there to restore calm. They were deployed across the town of Bamenda as local inhabitants were panic-stricken. A good number could not go about their day-to-day activities. Now, today, one of the most intense ghost towns was observed in Kumbo, Bui division of the northwest region of Cameroon, as even markets and other activities observed in Kumbo, Bui division of the northwest region of Cameroon, as even markets and other activities were on a standstill. This Monday, we hear in the following report that many were scared to go out of their homes. Details in the following report. In Kumbo, Bui division northwest region of Cameroon this Monday, inhabitants who had errands to run had only 2 options: postpone it for another day or go on foot. The transport sector was paralyzed as drivers parked their vehicles observing the ghost town day. The streets were empty, with all the houses along the roads closed. Locals were either indoors or had gone to the farm even before it was dawn. The market was completely deserted. No trader, no buyer seen anywhere. The ghost town in Kumbo, according to residents, had never been this intense, as activities in all the sectors were paralyzed early Monday till the later part of the day. We now present to you the picture of the southwest regional headquarters of Boya. Today, Boya had the usual picture of a ghost town day. Only few taxis and motorbikes were circulating around the city, but business premises and markets were practically closed. It had a huge impact on several activities. Residents could not buy as shops were closed. One of them told our correspondent in Boya, Derek Jato, how the sit-in strike affected his today's activities. Let's hear him in the following excerpt. An excerpt of a Boya resident. He is going to be recounting how today's sit-in strike in that part of the southwest region of Cameroon affected his activities today. Take a listen.
Actually, I don't really know why places are...
Cameroon affected his activities today. Take a listen.
Actually, I don't really know why places are really long, but I know I let this ghost town today. Let this ghost town. Because everywhere I wanted to go to school in the morning, I couldn't buy bread. All the stores in my quarter are locked, so I'm just coming back. I want to take a taxi now and go back home. Actually, it's really difficult because, for example, I for one, even patients now, they cannot have way to buy food to cook for themselves and take their drugs. So that's it.
We continue with news from the southwest regional headquarters of Boya. As we announced in the headlines, Prince Isuka Endele is the new paramount ruler of Boya. The choice of the people fell on him during an election which took place today in Boya in the presence of the senior divisional officer for FACO and the mayor for Boya, as well as other top-ranking authorities in the region. Prince Esuka Endele is successor to late Chief E.M. Endele, who died since July 2015. His election comes after a series of fruitless consultations that were chaired by the senior divisional officer for FACO division, as well as other local administrative authorities. Prince Esuka Endele is holder of master's degree in geology and is equally PhD student in cyber criminality in the United States of America. And in the following excerpt, the head of the royal family and the mayor for Boya municipality respectively will be explaining the choice of Prince Esuka and the impact on the entire Boya municipality. Let's hear them in the following excerpt that was speaking to Derek Jato.
Family issue. Whenever there is a vacancy, the family puts together. Even if there is a will, I want to explain to you that the other Dan made a will that his own son should do. But unfortunately, when the family started in 1983, they disqualified it. That they don't need the problem of the will. 83, they disqualified it. That they don't need the problem of the will. You can select your son who is a thief. You don't expect the family to accept. So that one we had a progress that it is a family issue. We start looking at private life of every individual. We cannot just take any type of person and put to lead. He's not there to lead only the royal family, but today he's there to lead the Bakwarian, more especially the Bakwarian. When they talk of the paramount chiefdom of Boya, all the Boya constituency is under him. We need to provide somebody who is respectable, presentable, who may be able to defend the title of not only the family, but of the chiefdom. Eventually, what we are now waiting for is a decree that will come out, and it will be signed by the Prime Minister. Prime Minister's decree is what we are now waiting for after this.
The vacancy has created a lot of difficulties in the coordination of administrative as well as traditional and social activities in the municipality. Having a paramount chief who will collaborate, of course, traditional rulers are auxiliaries of the administration. Definitely we shall collaborate, and the task of the mayor shall be reduced. I'm so happy, I'm excited. What we are waiting for is that the decision to endorse him finally, action should be carried on very fast. The year is an election year. We cannot be doing an election with a vacancy in that stool. It's a very strategic. I want to say this is a memorable day in the history of the city, a memorable day in the FACO division, a memorable day in Southwest region.
And now let's talk about how youths are using social media platforms in Cameroon. The question on how youths are using social media platforms in Cameroon. The question on how youths are using social media for income generation and curbing unemployment is a very complex. Complex in a complex society like Cameroon keeps resurfacing. Our reporter Innocent, as I spoke with some youths here in the country's economic capital, Douala, they told him how and why they are using the social media. Let's get their reactions in the following report.
Facebook, Imo, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, and many other social media platforms have become indispensable to youth who say cannot spend an hour without consulting at least one of them, talk less of a day.
Je peux pas me passer de ça. Je ne peux vraiment pas me passer de ça. On peut pas s'en passer de WhatsApp ni de Facebook.
Though the social media offers the opportunity for self-employment and income generation through e-commerce, most youth ignore this unemployment curbing path for less important goals.
Non, les photos également, les causeries, en fait, il y a les intimités.
Sharing and posting of images, jokes and comments rather animate the social media. Some youth say they exclude themselves from these social media practices by telling us they solely use it to chat and share relevant information with classmates, colleagues and group mates.
Par exemple, WhatsApp, on organise des groupes d'études, des groupes de travaux où on s'échange des sujets pour travailler.
Social media has, however, brought more of curse than blessings to the youthful population in diverse ways, with addiction most alarming.
C'est vrai que dans Facebook, c'est beaucoup plus, il y a beaucoup plus de dérapage là.
Defamation on persons of goodwill as well as establishments and initiation are also negative fruits produced by social media when wrongly used.
Les jeunes ont pris les réseaux sociaux sincèrement pour discréditer.
Youths misusing the social media.
Les réseaux sociaux sincèrement pour discréditer.
Youths misusing the social media have been encouraged by government to explore it for self-employment, sustainable wealth, prosperity, and fame.
On to something else, the failing moral standards in youths today is a major preoccupation, especially to civic educators who believe that sensitization is so far the ultimate solution. Officials of the National Civic Agency for Participation in Development say that many youths today are engaged in illicit drug consumption as well as moral decadence out of ignorance. They were carrying out sensitization campaigns in several parts of the Southwest region, precisely the campus of the University of Boya. Derek Jato was there. He compiled this report.
The urgent need for the recuperation of moral values that has today disappeared, especially among the youth, has taken the Southwest Regional Office of the National Civic Service Agency for Participation in Development and its volunteers to the campus of the University of Boya.
You see, when you move the campaign, we can call it campus store, to the university campus where they have a majority of the students, we are trying to make them understand that their education is priority, especially during this period of crisis that we have in the country, that schools are going on now. This normalcy is very important to them. They should have to learn about dressing code, the protection of the environment, and a lot of other virtues that we are trying to inculcate to them.
The students who stopped by at distance for lectures saluted the initiative.
The level of drug consumption in society, most especially among youth, it's very alarming.
But also call on the agency to extend the civic education campaign into the neighborhood where drugs abuse, for instance, is steadily rising unperturbed.
Reach those areas where in the suburbs or the villages or these areas where in the suburbs or the villages or these quarters where.
Responding, Mr. Eno Daniel Abo, the agency Southwest Regional Coordinator, said he is taking the campaign into the neighborhood in the days ahead.
I want to assure you that we are not ending this campaign here in the university. We are going to move to the neighborhoods, the quarters. We have the equipment, the materials.
Also present was Madam Liunga Susan, the Southwest Regional Delegate of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, who revealed that the civic education campaign is part of the activities ahead of the 2018 National Youth Day celebration.
I think we are here with regards to the 52nd edition of the Youth Day celebration here in Boya, and this activity is one of the activities carved out in the 11th Day Youth Day celebration.
The promotion of these civic education
And how
campaign.
ready is Cameroon to host the 2019 AFCON Games? There are still a lot of doubts whether several projects, especially those in the economic capital Douala, are going to be ready before the 2019 deadline. It should be noted that several stadia, especially the Mbappe Lepe and Douala Reunification Stadium here in the economic capital Douala, have simply been abandoned by the various companies in charge with their rehabilitation. Innocent Aze paints the picture further in this report.
The Mbappe Lepe Stadium in Akwa Douala is one of the pitches to host sporting activities of one of the pools of the 2019 AFCON tournament in the littoral region of Cameroon. reserved particularly for training. Unlike the Douala Reunification Stadium, no worker of the company in charge of its rehabilitation could be seen on duty, though everywhere has been fenced and locked with warning no one should trespass on duty, though everywhere has been fenced and locked with warning no one should trespass due to ongoing works. Those we spotted had nothing to do with the rehabilitation of the Mbapelepe Stadium. Only trenches have been partially dug long before the arrival of the CAF's first fact-finding mission to Cameroon. Workers were lastly seen when the CAF inspection team visited the Mbapelepe Stadium for inspection. Immediately the CAF delegation left Douala, the contractors deserted the construction site. Similar characteristics could be visible at the Douala Reunification Stadium, where no rehabilitation work has begun, raising doubts and questions if really Cameroon will host the 2019 AFCON. The Japoma Stadium, second largest to host a pool of the AFCON 2019, is advancing at a slow pace and at a moment when disgruntled workers complain of poor working conditions and low salaries. Project managers, sports and administrative authorities in the littoral region, however, give the population all the impressions these sports infrastructures will be ready before the December deadline. Though the CAF delegation submitted reports that Cameroon will be ready to host the AFCON Games, the CAF boss Ahmad recently said he is discontented with slow advancement works, urging Cameroon to double its efforts to meet up with the expected deadline. Morocco has indicated it is ready and on standby to receive the hosting rights if Cameroon is unable.
An actor of the civil society, Mr. Davidson D. Ate, is our guest tonight. Sir, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, MEFO.
Tonight we are presenting, we'll begin a series of debates ahead of the 52nd Youth Day to be celebrated in Cameroon. We remember the address of the President of the Republic exactly 1 year ago. I should note that it was on the 10th of February 2017, but 1 year after. Tonight we are going to be looking at the assessment, especially on the situation in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, during which he talked about constructive dialogue and measures taken so far by the government of Cameroon to resolve the ongoing crisis. About constructive dialogue, do you have the impression that there has been dialogue all this while, given that we are seeing the international community and several actors of the civil society still stressing on the need for dialogue to be given pride of place?
I think the simple answer to that, and the first one, is no. There is talk of it. The head of state himself has definitely made us understand that that is the preferred way to go ahead. Constructive dialogue, but nothing has been put in place for that dialogue to take place. Nothing has been put in place for that dialogue to take place. In addition, when there's been any mention of it, it has been more like a dialogue that would not be inclusive. He seems, or the powers that be seems to say there are certain people who have to be excluded from this dialogue, which is at this time, seeing what is going on, is just not the best way to go.
In essence, when he was talking about constructive dialogue and measures taken so far by the government to address the crisis, he was citing the Bilingualism Commission and the ad hoc committees that have so far been created to solve the problems of the teachers and the lawyers. He equally talked about other measures on course, or other measures that will be coming up to as solutions to the Anglophone crisis.
Yeah, that has been very strictly his own point of view, I'm afraid to say so. When you talk of dialogue, you're talking of two people. When you're talking a dialogue where people don't understand or don't agree with each other, the basis, the platform, the agenda for the dialogue should be fixed by both parties. But when he has what I seem to believe he has in mind for a dialogue is what he says you would dialogue on. I think he will probably say one thing on his side and send people on the other side to say the same thing, which is not really a dialogue. I think Cameroonians have gone past that stage. We need to talk to each other. The dialogue needs to be open. It needs to be broad and inclusive of all
the kind
shapes.
of dialogue you are talking about, do you think that is going to take place? If to you is the solution to the current crisis in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, do you think that that kind of dialogue the government envisages to engage in such a dialogue?
The government certainly would insist on its own kind of dialogue, which I do not think will take place. Certainly would insist on its own kind of dialogue, which I do not think will take place. I think the dialogue that the common man, that everybody reasonable and wants a solution to this problem is thinking about, will take place. The point is, when will it take place, and how much disaster, how much trouble, how much wahala, as we say in Pidgin English, would have happened.
To you, the dialogue is not taking place. What could possibly be the reason why it's taking so much time for the government to engage in the kind of dialogue you are talking about?
Because the head of state seems to think he can appoint the people to dialogue on one side and decide for the others who should dialogue for them. When we talk, one time somebody I think on the social media said the dialogue is taking place. They have sent people to the Anglophone regions, Northwest and Southwest, to talk to the people. And I think the head of state in a way referred to it that he's listened to the people, meaning that he's dialogue to the people. And what the people want is this. Actually what he was referring to are the people that were sent. Some people think that,
which is not, to you, is not a solution.
You're
giving me the impression that the head of state is really not willing to solve the problem. Is that the impression you're giving me?
He's not willing, or he is being fooled. I like to think he's being fooled, because I don't want to think that for 32 years I've got a head of state who is really not well-intentioned. I think he is well-intentioned, but he is not being told.
You simply think so. Let us look at the key terms of the Youth Day that's going to be commemorated: multiculturalism and national unity. What to you is the significance of such a theme, the choice of the theme?
I think the choice of the theme is grandiose. It's what we are good at, wordplay. Culturalism has not been a problem in this country. Multilingualism, bilingualism has not been a problem. Those of us who were present, who were young people at independence, we did all our best to be bilingual. I worked all my life in both languages. That has never been the problem. The problem is elsewhere. Life in both languages. That has never been the problem. The problem is elsewhere. And what the people on the ground are trying to say is that is not the problem. This is the problem. This is where it hurts. This is where it bites. The culturalism is not a question of imposing one culture on the other, which is what has been taking place. It's a question of listening to each other, letting people behave the way they are behaving. So long as it doesn't harm the country, so long as it doesn't cause war, doesn't cause disease. What is wrong with me? Having been brought up in the Anglo-Saxon way, in fact, not only in Cameroon, but I went for my further studies in Britain, learned that culture. What is wrong with me being in Cameroon and acting in that way? How does it harm the others? It doesn't. It shouldn't. But they are not listening. They cannot do it. There's not a single Anglophone family that I know, in the broader sense of the word, that hasn't had some marginalization, something about the way the French are imposing themselves, are marginalizing them, that can say that, yes, I'm fully comfortable with what is happening. Everything the Anglophone has achieved in this country has been with force, has been with argument, has been with going on the streets. And when it has been implemented, it has been to the benefit of everybody. Whether you're talking of the GCE board, whether you're talking of any of the other things that they fought for. There's no harm.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davison Deate, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. Thank you for your time. To our televiewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs until we meet again. Goodbye.